A black woman is pulled over by two white cops. They insult her, mock her, and arrest her for no reason. In a small town in Alabama, a black woman named Lisa Johnson was driving home after a long day at work. She was tired, but she was careful, always obeying the speed limit, always cautious. That's why it came as a shock when flashing lights appeared in her rearview mirror. She pulled over, thinking it was just a routine check. But what happened next was anything but routine. Two white cops, Officer Brad and Officer Mike, approached her car. From the moment they started speaking, their tone was aggressive. They accused her of speeding, but Lisa knew she hadn't been. She tried to explain, but they cut her off, their words dripping with disdain. They called her uncooperative and disrespectful, even though she was calm and polite. Then, things took a darker turn. They started hurling insults, calling her names that no one should ever have to hear. Lisa's heart raced as she realized this wasn't about a traffic violation. It was about something much uglier. She asked why she was being treated this way, but they didn't answer. Instead, they ordered her out of the car. Lisa hesitated, knowing how these situations could escalate, but she complied. She stepped out, her hands visible, and tried to reason with them. But before she could say another word, they handcuffed her. She asked what she was being arrested for, but they just smirked and shoved her into the back of their squad car. As they drove her to the station, Lisa's mind raced. She knew this wasn't right, but she also knew she had to stay calm. What the officers didn't know, though, was that Lisa wasn't just an ordinary citizen. She had a secret, one that would soon turn the tables on them in a way they could never have imagined. Lisa Johnson wasn't just a regular woman driving home that night. She was a CIA agent, working undercover to investigate corruption in the local police department. For months, she had been gathering evidence, looking into reports of racial profiling, abuse of power, and even bribery. But she never expected to become a victim of the very system she was investigating. When the officers brought her to the station, Lisa stayed silent. She knew her identity would come to light soon enough, and she didn't want to give them any reason to escalate the situation further. They booked her, took her mugshot, and threw her in a holding cell, still mocking her as they walked away. Lisa sat there, her mind racing. She knew this wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had ever been wronged by these officers. The next morning, Lisa was brought to court. The two officers, Brad and Mike, stood confidently in front of the judge, smirking as they recounted their version of events. They painted Lisa as aggressive, uncooperative, and disrespectful. They claimed she had resisted arrest and even threatened them. The judge listened, his expression unreadable, and then turned to Lisa. "Do you have anything to say for yourself?" he asked. That's when Lisa stood up. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her CA badge, holding it up for everyone to see. "Your Honor," she said, her voice steady but firm, "I'm not just a civilian. I'm a federal agent, and these officers didn't just violate my rights. They exposed a pattern of behavior that's been hurting this community for years." The room erupted in gasps. The officers' faces went pale. The judge immediately called for a recess, and within hours, the case was handed over to federal authorities. Bodycam footage from the arrest was reviewed, and it confirmed everything Lisa had said. The officers' insults, their blatant racism, their abuse of power, it was all there, undeniable and damning. As the investigation unfolded, more details came to light. Other victims came forward, sharing their own stories of mistreatment by the same officers. The local police department was put under federal scrutiny, and sweeping reforms were demanded. Lisa's calm demeanor and sharp response in court went viral, with people across the country calling her a hero. But for Lisa, this wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about justice for herself and for everyone who had ever been silenced by a broken system. The courtroom was tense as Lisa stood up, her CA badge gleaming in her hand. The two officers, Brad and Mike, froze, their smug confidence crumbling in an instant. The judge leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he studied the badge. "Your Honor," Lisa began, her voice calm but commanding, "I'm a federal agent, and these officers didn't just wrong me. They exposed a system that's been failing this community for years." The room erupted. Reporters scrambled to take notes. The officers' lawyers whispered frantically, and the judge immediately called for a recess. But the damage was done. Lisa's revelation had set off a chain reaction that no one could stop. Within hours, the case was handed over to federal authorities, and the body cam footage from the arrest was made public. The footage was damning. It showed the officers mocking Lisa, hurling racial slurs, and refusing to listen to her explanations. It showed them handcuffing her without cause and shoving her into the squad car, all while laughing at her expense. The video spread like wildfire, sparking outrage across the country. People were furious, not just at the officers, but at the entire system that had allowed this behavior to go unchecked for so long. As the investigation deepened, more victims came forward. Stories of racial profiling, false arrests, and outright abuse flooded in, all pointing to the same two officers. The local police department was put under federal scrutiny, and the chief was forced to resign. The officers were fired, and criminal charges were brought against them. But the most powerful moment came when Lisa addressed the media. Standing in front of a crowd of reporters, she spoke with a quiet strength that left everyone speechless. "This isn't just about me," she said. "It's about every person who's ever been treated unfairly because of the color of their skin. It's about holding people accountable, no matter who they are or what uniform they wear." Her words resonated far beyond that small Alabama town. They became a rallying cry for justice, a reminder that change is possible when someone has the courage to stand up and speak out. Lisa's calm demeanor and sharp response in court had not only exposed corruption, it had inspired a movement. And in that moment, everyone knew this was just the beginning. If this story hit home for you, hit that subscribe button. Because stories like this, they're worth sharing.